Okay, welcome everyone to this joint webinar by Impact Circle and Your Future Forward. My name is Lenny. I'm one of the founders of Impact Circle, and I was a former vice principal at Diamond High School. So if later on you have some questions regarding SAP schools or IP schools, I can take your questions on those, especially. But other than that, we have a really great panel of experts today. I will introduce them to you later, right? And we are very excited to see all of you. And all of us here, we're all parents, including myself. So I have three kids, and my eldest also just finished PSLE, and she's also moving into secondary school next year. Right. So thank you so much for joining us. And as the night goes on, please, if you have any questions, please make a note of them, and there will be a Q&A session at the end of the session. Okay, great. So yes, welcome. And congratulations, because for many of you, your kids just finished PSLE, so you have also graduated from primary school parent to secondary school parent very soon, right? So a little bit more about Impact Circle. We have just turned 1.5, I think, 1.5 years old, and we are founded by Angela, who's one of the speakers today, and myself, and we were former colleagues at Hillgrove Secondary School. So we decided to form an academic coaching agency that is kind of different from other tuition centers lah. Like, the way we do things is quite different. We focus mainly on online, and we believe in the importance of self-directedness and teaching the kids to be more responsible. So we do expect that every student does a little bit of preparation, in terms of taking responsibility for a pre-lesson learning activity. So before they come to class, they need to read up by themselves or watch a video or take part in some discussion before they come for class. And after every class, we have an immediate assessment to assess their learning, right? So we'll be happy to share more about the Impact Circle if you should have any questions about us, right? So today, this is the scope of today's webinar. Okay. We will share about how we can navigate the educational landscape in SG, and how to choose the right secondary school for your child, and what to expect in Set 1, and also the ways in which we can support you can support your child in Set 1. Right? So without further ado, these are our presenters. Firstly, we have Miss Edna Ang. Okay, she's the founder of Your Future Forward. She is herself a very experienced educator, and I think she has been in at least 5 different schools, before becoming a youth coach, right? So she's an ICF certified parent and youth coach. For those of you who are not familiar with ICF, they're actually the biggest coaching institute, certification institute in the world, the International Coaching Federation, right? And she's also a youth mentor, and she's very passionate about helping the young ones find their purpose in life, right? So she will share more with you guys about her background later. And my partner in not in crime but in business, Mrs. Angela Cham. She's a co-founder of Impact Circle Education. She's a former English HOD at Maris Stella High School, and also a former HQ officer. And she's also a postgraduate scholar. Oh, so many awards, and so much that she has achieved in her career. And she's also ACTA certified, which means that she can also teach adults as well as she teaches children, right? And also certified in e-learning instructional design. Okay, so with that, I will pass the time over first to Angela, right? Angela, all yours.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming for the webinar. I think Lenny is too modest about his achievements. So he was a PSC scholar, by the way. So without further ado, may I get Lenny to play us a video first? We would like to share with all of you the kind of world that your child will enter upon graduation from school in a few years' time. All right, Lenny, thank you. thank you. I think in this video by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD for short, we are getting a glimpse of the kind of future where everything is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I think in the past 1 year or so, we all have been victims of, in one way or another, of this VUCA world that our children will also experience when they enter the marketplace. All right. So with this kind of future in place, what kind of skills and competencies and dispositions are we building in our students and your children? All right, so education is no longer just about getting the A's, but it's also having that kind of dispositions that will put them in good stead to enter this kind of work world in future. All right, so according to the OECD, all right, there is an increase in need for skills, not in terms of your the scores that they get, but in terms of the cognitive skills, the social emotional skills, and the technological skills. So hard skills aside, like technological skills, I think it's never too early to start building higher cognitive skills like analytical and evaluative skills. So those who are familiar with the Bloom's cognitive taxonomy, you will realize that the skills that I just mentioned, in analytical, evaluative, and creative, these are all on the higher order of the Bloom's taxonomy. And in order to thrive in the VUCA world, I think social emotional skills cannot be neglected at all. All right, so they have already, the organization has postulated that by 2030, these skills will be in a greater demand. All right, next. Okay, so how then do we help our own children, our students, to enter the work world ready? All right, I think as experienced educators, what we will encourage parents and students alike to learn to do is learning to learn with motivation. All right, so we often equate results as a sign of learning. That's just half of the equation. Behind that is really the disposition of wanting to learn and learning to learn with that motivation. Now, the one metaphor that I want all of you to think about as we have today's webinar is really about life as a marathon, a journey that our children will require us to walk them through at this stage in their life, and after that, having the stamina and the skills to continue that marathon throughout their lives. All right, so we have to bear that in mind. All right, so learning to learn with motivation, and at the same time, developing the skills and work competencies. So the skills here can mean your academic skills and also various kinds of skills in what they like to do and so forth, and eventually the work competencies. All right, next. Okay, so at this point in time, having shared out with all of you the kind of world that our children, our students will enter, can you just take about that 10 seconds to think about what are the broad goals of education you have for your children? Right, just 10 seconds to think about it. Is it just to get the best results that they can, or is it something more that you would like them to have in their journey of education in school? All right, let's move on. Okay, so we are brought up to think that, educational and landscape just one way, get into the best secondary school, get into the best JC, or these days the flavor of the day is really to get into your IP or IB program. Why? Because Singapore has one of the best IB scores and so forth. But is it just so linear? I think in Singapore, when next slide please, thank you. In Singapore, we have to bear in mind that there are many pathways for our children. All right, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but I think whichever path that you encourage your child to take, or your child has expressed his or her desire to take, you need to walk through it with your child, and you need to know your child very well, even if they do well. All right, going to the IP route or the IB program may not always be the best choice, because the IP and the IB require very what do you call that, more skill sets, as, for example, analytical skills, to be really sharp even when they enter the program. So if your child does not have that skill yet, I think your child will find it very hard to do well in the IP or IB. So first thing first, you need to know your child very well. All right. So IP and IB students need to be very self-motivated. You know your child. Is your child someone who needs a lot of help and motivation? And if that's so, then the IP and IB route may not be the best one for your child. Now, in fact, in the mainstream secondary school, there is a wide variety of school programs to cater to students. So that might be an option that you may want to think about if you're not too confident or sure about your child who has done well for PSLE, but you're unsure about whether your child should take the IP or IB route. All right, let's move on. So I think I shall not go too much into detail. I think all of you have been briefed a couple of times at least in your child's primary school about subject-based banding. I'm just going to refer to it as SBB in this webinar. So as of last year, that has always been as of last year, there is already a full SBB pilot in 28 secondary school, and increasingly, the full rollout will be completed by 2024. And the best news that I think for me personally as a teacher is the new common national exam that will put in place by 2027. We do not have any news of that yet. We just know that it's just going to be like a co-branding between MOE and Cambridge. All right, so with all these changes, your child is right smack in the thick of the action in 2021, where your child is the first batch of P6 students undergoing the new PSLE achievement level scoring system, as well as the new Set 1 posting system. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so just some changes to refresh everybody's memory. The PSLE scoring, as you would have realized, since last year when a child was in primary 5, is the use of the achievement levels. All right, so I know a lot of us have a lot of opinions about how the the AL system may advantage or disadvantage certain students, but we're not going to talk about that today. All right, but what the implication is that there are many more possible PSLE scores. In fact, according to MOE, there will be 29 possible PSLE scores. All right, and then the next thing that you should take note of is the Set 1 posting system. I have a couple of questions from the registration forms that we collected, and some of you are asking about the Set 1 posting system. All right, just remember that it is going to be a tiebreaker system in order of priority of citizenship, choice order of schools, and computerized balloting. All right, the third thing, which I think a lot of you will also be very interested to know, is how SBB will be carried out in secondary schools. All right, it depends on whether the school that your child will be entering next year has already been part of the pilot, or they are just starting out, or they have not entered SBB yet. So there are many possibilities, but one thing you have to note is the use of G1, G2, and G3 subjects that corresponds G1 is equivalent to the normal technical, G2 is normal academic, and G3 will be the express level. And usually they will mix the form classes with different students taking different combination with them as a class attending lessons for common subjects such as CCE, all right, FCE, art, and so forth, and PE as well. So that will really encourage all of them to mix well rather than having an elitist system in school. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so how then with all these changes? All right, as I started my part of the webinar talking about the world being volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, and so forth. In view of all these different things, how then can you choose a suitable secondary school for your child? All right, so we have to remember that excellence in whatever that your child is doing is really an art won by training and habituation. All right, according to Aristotle. You see this picture. I'm a literature teacher, so I love to use representations, and in this case, a picture to share my ideas. All right, so if you look at this picture, somewhere in the Himalayas with a beautiful and possibly receding glacier, right, Edna? As a geography teacher, I think that's a receding glacier. All right, there are different peaks, all right, and it can represent the kind of schools that your child may end up choosing, shortlisting at this point in time, and they're all good in different ways. I think one thing that a lot of parents are skeptical about is, the common saying, every school a good school. All right, so every school a good school can be interpreted in the way that each school caters and carry out programs that are best suited for the needs, strengths, and aspirations of the students under their charge. All right, so in that sense, every school is a good school because each school is doing their best to meet the needs of their children. So we have to remember that. All right, I think the key is to choose a school that matches your child's strengths, needs, and aspiration. And then as parents, we train them, we put in habits, all right, along the way. I think all of you would have been doing this ever since they were young. You train them to do a certain thing, you train them to be polite, and so forth. So we have to continue to do that even as they enter the next phase of their life, teenagehood. All right, so I'm going to talk about the kind of considerations, two main types of consideration that you can think about and work through it with your child. The first one is growth consideration, and the second one is practical considerations. All right. Firstly, in terms of growth considerations, take time to talk to your child about his or her needs, strengths, and aspirations. All right, it cannot be just a one-way unilateral kind of like, I think, girl, your strengths are this, so therefore I think you should do this. Talk to your child, get your child to express himself or herself in terms of what they think they need to improve in or they need to learn, the strengths that they think they have. Sometimes the strengths that we think they have may be seen as a weakness to them. All right, so get them to talk about it. And in doing so, you'll be surprised that, there will be a common understanding of what your child needs and what your child wants to develop in secondary school. I know you're probably thinking like, oh, does it mean that we have to talk about careers? Possibly, but in my experience, talking to secondary school students, even all the way up to like JC or poly or secondary four, they still have no idea. And their common refrain is always, I see what my results will get me. All right, that is actually a very passive way of planning ahead. All right, I always tell my students, do your best, ensure that you learn and improve whatever weaknesses as you review along the way, so that in over time you will improve so much that you have more options because your results would have improved already, and you have more options in terms of choices of a post-secondary course that they can go to. I think I want to share something that I came across on Instagram. So I look at what Instagram has sometimes, just to, well, more so to keep in touch with the way my students are thinking and so forth. And I saw somebody put up a post, and it really resonated with me yesterday. Well, it still resonates with me. That's why I'm sharing with you. It says, just aim to improve 1% a day. In a span of a year, you have improved 365%. And I thought that was such a positive way of thinking about improvements in our life. So we have to continue to talk to our children, our students, about what they want to do, all right, in terms of their aspirations, and there are various pathways to fulfill the aspirations. And I think most importantly, don't impose your desires on your child. In the midst of preparing for this webinar, I put this point in. I was so happy that Edna is going to talk about this later as well. Okay, so like for example, in Impact Circle, right? Other than just talking about results, and helping them to grow. There was one webinar we conducted for our students recently where we invited my ex-student, Mr. Lenny's ex-student as well, and who is now a singer-songwriter, and as well as another lawyer that we know, where they share about how they come to discover their strengths, their aspiration, and how they get to do what they are doing right now. So these are some of the kind of things that I think your children should be exposed to. All right, let's move on. Okay, second growth consideration. Having talked through with your child, all right, what he or she enjoy doing, want to develop, and aim to do in the future, Then we shortlist the school where they have programs that match and can grow your child's needs, strengths, and aspirations. So some of the things that you can look into when you attend the ECCA will be the range of CCAs that the school provides. What are the school-based programs that the school also provide to their students, either in terms of the year level or in terms of a whole school approach. All right, another thing that you can look into is the applied learning program that the school conducts for the entire school, as well as the Learning for Life program. So different schools have different specialty in terms of ALP and LLP. Like for example, Hillgrove Secondary School, where Mr. Lenny and I met as colleagues more than 10 years ago, their ALP is in aviation. Why? Because the school has a history of very strong youth flying club members winning awards and taking their private pilot license after school. So over time, they develop and build their strengths in that aspect in school, and they provided it as an ALP in school. And then your child may also want to pick up third languages, all right, in the language center in MOE, or take up language electives, like for example, Malay language elective and so forth. Or if your child is artistically inclined or musically inclined, you may want to consider school that provides the art elective program or the music elective program. Now, I remember years ago when I was a student, there were only very few schools offering such programs. But these days, the range of schools has increased, all right, to accommodate or to provide the AEP and MEP. All right, or if your child has special educational needs, look into whether the schools that you have shortlisted provide this in class as well. All right, so two considerations under growth, all right, whether your child, what kind of needs, skill, strengths and aspiration your child has, and then match it with the school that have programs that will match and grow your child's needs and aspirations in those areas that you have discussed with your child. All right, let's move on to practical consideration. Now, I think this is very real, yeah, because as a teacher, I've seen so many students, yeah, suffering in school when their home is so far away from school. Also, let me share a story about the first year that I was a HOD in Maris Stella. There was this boy. All right, the first year I went there, I was taking on a Sec 4 English and Literature class. So there was this boy in my Sec 4 English class, and for the first half of the year, close to half of the year, I was wondering why he always fell asleep in my English lesson, especially when it is in the first few periods before recess. And over time, as I get to know him, so initially I thought, oh, this boy is so rude. I can wake him up. He will not quarrel with me or anything, but he will wake up, and then after a while he will just doze off again. So I was a bit puzzled, and then as I get to know him more, I realized why. So Maristella is right where Bartley MRT station is, along Bartley Road is, like Serangoon and Bartley, right? This poor boy was living, I believe he still is, living in Jurong West. The Jurong West is just right outside NTU. And he told me, to my horror, that he had to wake up early enough to catch the first feeder bus at 5:30 a.m. in order to arrive in school at 7 to 7:15. So he was so tired whenever he
Hey, be careful of the wire.
he was so tired, whenever he came to school, and especially Sec 4 year, a lot of homework and a lot of revision, so my sympathy was really for him. Yeah, I mean, he was a very good boy. Eventually he did well for English as well. I think there was a lot of hard work to keep awake. So I always tell this story to parents, because the distance that your child needs to travel from home to school and school to home will really deplete his or her energy over time. And you may not feel it so much in lower sec, where the demands of school may not be that high. But as you go on to upper sec, where there are more after school programs or lessons and things like that, your child is going to feel it. So choose a school that is still within a good distance from your home, and not somewhere too far away. And then another thing to consider will be the modes of transport for your child. All right, are you going to send your child to school and back? And if so, what will be the traffic situation like? All right, so I'll give you an example. My children, okay, go to Rosai, And Rosyth is situated in the middle of a housing estate, and there's like this one-way street both directions. I get a bit panicky in the morning if we don't get onto the 6:45 bus. Imagine I live very close to Rosyth. It just doesn't take too long to get to Rosyth. But I get very jittery if I don't catch the 6:45 bus. Because when I get closer to school, there will be this long jam of parents driving their children going to school, and I'll be like, okay, wait, my kids cannot be late, and things like that. So I get nervous and all. And likewise, when you know it, right? If you live near a school where it's a popular school, or or the street is just one way like that, like Rosyth, right? You will find it very challenging and nervous, sending your child to school. So think about the kind of modes of transport. Then you have to work backward, the kind of timing that you need to set off from school and things like that. So all these are very practical considerations that you have to think about and discuss with your child. All right, next. And secondly, how will your child's schedule be like to accommodate everything? There will be family time to consider, the traveling time, the CCA that your child will participate in, the academic pursuits, and then rest time. All right, so we need to prioritize all these different demands with sufficient time for rest and family time. Now, we all know that teenagers tend to sleep late. Physiologically, there is an understanding and explanation for that. So I attended a course some time ago, and it was on boy-centric education. All right, and they got the speaker is a researcher on like teenagers, and they found that naturally teenagers has like a later body clock. Okay, so physiologically, it's not that your child suddenly turn rebellious, want to stay up late, but somehow physiologically they tend to sleep a little bit later. But it cannot be ridiculous like 1 a.m. every night, obviously. All right, so with all these different needs, especially with more subjects, all right, how then can you manage all this time? All right, so I'm going to talk about the academic demands in secondary school. All right, we have to bear in mind that there are just more academic subjects. So in primary school, your child may be just taking 4 subjects, all right, and some 1 or 2 CCA. There's still time for CCA and things like that. But in secondary school, there are 8 or in fact 10, depending on whether your child is taking up elective programs or the music elective, art elective, and third language, and so forth. So there'll be so many more academic subjects. Okay, so you have to prep your child for this. And school hours will be longer. All right, it is not uncommon for secondary school, to end at say 2:30 or even 3 on 1 or 2 days. All right, and then there will be CCA. There is a question from a parent about how many CCAs your child should be taking. All right, usually it's 1. All right, because there'll be a lot more involvement and so forth. I'm going to talk about that later. All right, and we need to take care of the social emotional learning as well as a teenager's needs. All right, the sense of identity, their aspirations, how do they manage expectation and workload? And we all know that it takes a village to raise a child. So surround your child, all right, with parental and community support. We cannot just let them go like a kite. We can't let the kite go off completely. We need to still hold on that string. We need to learn how to let go at times and how to rein in at times. And then all these got to do with setting healthy boundaries. All right, so let me talk a little bit about how you can help your child or help yourself to first understand how subjects will be taught in school, in secondary school. This is no different from primary school. Maybe it's not always articulated in primary school or even in some in any school for the matter. So in case you're wondering like, I know that my child will do well because based on the assessment papers, the exam papers, the weighted assessment, you're not wrong, parents. All right, but bear in mind that to learn something, it is dependent on 3 factors. All right, curriculum, the content, what is taught. Pedagogy, how is it taught? So that is the expertise of teachers. And then the assessment, so how are the exam papers set? What are the skills that are tested in the exam papers? And what do the exam papers inform you of your child's strengths and areas of weakness to improve? All right, so don't just focus on the exam papers. Ask your child to talk about, so how is your teacher teaching, for example, English comprehension? All right, then get him or her to revise it, the skills and strategies, and not just write more essays. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Okay, so how then can you support your child academically, knowing all these different pieces of information? All right, I can't stress this more. I can't stress this often enough. Yeah, spend time, really spend time to understand with your child and school teachers what the key learning outcomes of each subject are. All right, what is the assessment plan of each subject, and then assessment requirements. So usually, teachers and schools will give out this, right at the start of the year, like, oh, we're going to have how many assessment for weighted assessment, we're going to do this and that. So if they don't give, I don't think the teachers will reject you if you do ask, oh, can I know, how many tests or papers that my child is expected to do, in a semester, and then you talk through it with your child and plan. All right, I always encourage my students to plan ahead. Okay, so when I was a HOD, I give them an entire semester of when the tests are, what the test will be, the number of marks for each assessment paper, and so forth. And that's how they inform their parents as well. All right, and last but not least, help your child to make smart goals. Right, next slide, please. All right, I think as adults, we are so used to doing this right at work, right? When our bosses or supervisors ask us to, talk about our goals and targets, we think about it in terms of smart goals. Likewise, teach your child to do this. All right, make sure that his or her goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So in impact circle, that's what we do with our students at the start of the year, in the middle of the year, as well as the end of the year, not just with our students but also with the parents. And we update the parents very regularly, and especially when there's a need to, on their child's progress. So work with your school teachers. Okay, work with us if you would like us to help your child improve as well. Okay, last but not least, I'm gonna stress it again. Journey with a child on this marathon. It's not a sprint, it is a marathon. All right, the secondary school journey will last between 4 to 6 years, depending on the kind of schools that you choose. All right, so don't expect your child to perform at the standard of the O level, A level, or year 12 or year 6, right at the start of set 1. All right, at lower sec, your child needs to learn the foundation of a range of academic subjects before they make an informed choice of their subject combination at upper secondary. So you see, everything takes place in stages. So what does this imply then? Your child needs to develop an interest and understanding of new subjects like design, technology, geography, and so forth. All right, so always seek help from your child's teachers for extra academic support, or anything. So work with your teachers. All right, now, when you seek help seek help for your child's weakness, it's not a sign of his inherent or her inherent weakness. It just means that at that point in time, he or she cannot grasp the concept sufficiently to score well. So there's nothing wrong with seeking help. All right, so I think with this, I will end my section of the webinar, and I will pass the time over to Edna. Next slide, please. All right, so Edna, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Angela, for your very, very informative presentation. Okay, wait, let me see. Okay, yeah. So in my section, I'm going to talk about how you as parents can support your teenagers in secondary 1 and beyond. So before I do that, let me introduce myself again, just that Lenny has already introduced me. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so who am I? I am also a mother. Okay, although my son is still very young, he is only like 6 years old this year, but I have been working with teenagers for the past 20 years before I become a coach. Okay, so I actually believe that Lenny, yeah, okay, believe that every individual child is unique and they have their own talents and gifts. Okay, so what we as parents and educators need to do is really to unfold that talent within them. Okay, so and then I believe that building a fulfilling parent and child relationship is the foundation. Okay, is the foundation for your child to reach their fullest potential. Next. So I have taught at these various schools, like let me say 5, I think it's more than 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. I have taught at 6 schools. Okay, I started off as a primary school teacher, and then I went on to secondary school, and then I even taught at SOTA and even the Korean International School. So I have come across students from various backgrounds, okay, so all of them actually they really need this parent-child connection, even at secondary school. Okay, next. So what do I do? Okay, my company, Your Future Forward, is actually a coaching company whereby I help parents, okay, with coaching programs to help them better understand their children and to build a parent-child relationship. Okay, so that their children and they themselves can become happy. Okay, both are motivated, confident, and okay, not only the child, even the parents can actually unleash their greatness within. Okay, and then as for the next slide, as for the teenagers, what I do is, okay, I help tweens and teens, okay, age 11 to 20, on these teen issues that are inside this wheel. Okay, so as I come into contact with my ex-students, okay, and now my coaching students, these are actually the very common issues that the teens are facing today. Right. So I do conduct like group workshops, right, to help them with these issues, and also one-to-one coaching. And because I am actually an ex-geography teacher, I am still very passionate in geography. So I also give like geography coaching, and I call it motivational geography coaching, whereby I actually use motivational coaching skills in my teaching of geography for Sec 1 to O levels. Okay, so now, okay, let's start. So how are you going to connect with your teens? Okay, so now the first thing that you need to do is to understand them, right? Just like Angela has said, okay, understanding them is very important. So your teens are actually called the Generation Z. Okay, they are born between 1995 to 2010. Okay, so they are now between 11 to 26 years old. As you might have already observed, your teenager, okay, would have these general characteristics. Many of them, okay, I would say most, they are very IT savvy, and you might find that they love to watch YouTube, okay, play online games. And because of this, right, they may neglect interpersonal relationship due to extensive time spent on the internet. This is actually one common problem that a lot of parents have been telling me. Okay, and then at this age, right, they're also trying to be independent, and they will have their own views and opinions. Okay, and you might find that sometimes you can see them doing many things at one time, like multitask. They will be doing homework, and then on the other hand, they'll be watching something, okay, or watching YouTube and things like that. Okay, but most of them have short attention span. Okay, so next. Okay, so based on what my ex-students and current students told me, okay, those students who are actually doing very well now in school, and okay, my first batch of students are already in their 30s, okay, so many of them have gone to hold very good careers. So these are, the 8 essential skills that they advocate, right? If your child wants to be successful and happy, okay. So first of all is they need to have this growth mindset, right? For self-directed learning, to stay motivated and to take on new challenges. Okay, that means, and then they also need to stay focused and have self-control, because many of them they'll be distracted by maybe the social media, distracted by other things, distracted by their friends, and so on. So staying focused and having self-control is very important. And they also need to be able to think critically. Okay, like that the subject is now no longer like in the primary school, right? They really need to use critical thinking skills in order to do well. Okay, and then because of so many subjects to take, right, many of them, they will feel very stressed. So managing their stress for overall mental well-being is very important. And as Angela has already mentioned, time management skills, okay, is really important, right? Minimum subjects they might have will be 7, and then and all the way to 9 or 10 subjects plus CCAs to attend. So time management is really important. And because there are so many different subjects to study, right, they really need to have the study skills, okay, to cope with all these. And then, as Angela has also mentioned, setting smart goals. Okay, and also social emotional skills. They also need to have the social skills to make new friends, especially in Sec 1. All right. Okay, so okay, my parents don't understand me. This is what many of my students told me. Okay, those who do not have like a good relationship with their parents. And then on the other hand, many parents, okay, tell me, I don't understand my teenager anymore. Okay, so what happens now? Okay, so they don't understand each other. So okay, firstly, in order to understand your teen, you must know what they are going through at this age. Okay, maybe you can think back to yourself. Okay, when you were a teenager at this age. Okay, what were you going through? Okay, your child is now going through the same thing. Okay, so they will be going through physical changes. Okay, right, like like because of the puberty, they might be having like pimples. Okay, and at this age, right, most teenagers, they are very, very self-conscious. Okay, so yeah, then also friendships as well. Okay, like many of the girls, okay, girls especially, they'll kind of tell me, this don't know why this person don't friend them anymore, things like that. So they are actually very bothered by all these things. And then okay, so these changes might actually be very frightening for them. All right. And then as parents, what you can do is, okay, you can talk to them about it, or even before that, you can talk to them about it. Okay, what can they do, right? And also, we must also know that this is actually a very challenging time of change for them. Okay, so all these can actually affect your child's mental and emotional well-being. Okay, next. And then you might find, all right, as your child enters into secondary school, there will be more arguments and more power struggles. Okay. So misbehavior speaks unmet needs. Usually, okay, many of the teenagers that have come across are like my ex-students, they don't really have the intention to argue with their parents, but because they told me that because the parents don't understand them or don't and then the parents will try to like advise them on things that they don't really want to hear. That is where arguments will start. Okay, so usually, okay, our children are actually trying to get our attention. Okay, if you think that okay, why if like suddenly like your child come home and then don't see eye to eye with you, okay, and then when you say something they start to argue, okay, then you must really look back, okay, and see what's happening. Okay, next, I'll talk about it later. Okay, so how to support your child? Okay, as your child enters into secondary school, it is actually very important, okay, for them to know that they can actually talk to you about their worries and problems. Okay, next. So what's the solution? Okay, the solution is actually, next please, to connect with them. All right, and if you want your teen to do very well, okay, not only academically but also in life next time, like so you really need to connect with them, and you are the one who is holding this golden key. Okay, so as this saying goes, when a child can't calm down, right, what they need is connection and comfort, not criticism and control. Okay, the more you criticize, the more you control, the more they will distance from you. Okay, so why is forming this connection very important? Okay, it is important because if you form this very strong bond, right, you will be building trust. Okay, you'll be understanding each other and respecting each other as individuals. Okay, so it is actually very important for mental well-being, for your child's motivation, self-confidence, and empowerment. Okay, and as you know, depression among young people is actually on the rise around the world. Okay, in Southeast Asia itself, okay, the suicide rate is also getting high, and like just recently this year, the incidents, okay, that happened in Singapore, right? Okay, really, really, is like a wake-up call for everybody, okay, for the whole nation, to actually take note of our child's mental well-being. Okay. So I'm going to share with you what are some of the things that you can do to connect with your child. Okay, some of you might have already heard of these 5 love languages. Okay, there are 5 love languages for adults and also for children. So these 5 love languages, okay, is actually written by Dr. Gary Chapman and Dr. Ross Campbell. Okay, okay, they say that by discovering your child's primary love language and then speaking it, it will actually help you to develop a stronger relationship with your child. So okay, based on this guide by Kids Guide, okay, you can okay, browse through. There are actually 5 simple ways, okay, to speak this love language. It could be words of affirmation, whereby you praise them, okay, okay, but I know normally you recognize their efforts, okay, right? Praise their effort, acts of service. Maybe you cook them, their favorite meal, okay. Quality time, okay, spend quality time with them, and some teens or children, okay, they might appreciate a small little gift, okay, all right, or like even a hug. All right, I know like in Asia, okay, during I think my parents' generation don't really give us hugs. But then for now, I think, because of Western influence, okay, we do hug our children nowadays. Okay, I hug my son, okay, every day. Okay, don't know how many times. Okay, or he will come and give me a hug. Okay, so okay, what you can do is you observe them, you think back, okay, when they were young, all right, what were things that they actually, all right, things that you did that, and that they actually loved. Okay, this will be like their primary love language. Okay, yeah, so that, and then there are also 3 very important things that you need to know about your teenagers. Okay, at this age, right, the teens feel that they need to be seen for who they really are, not what their parents want them to be. Okay, so just like Angela said just now, do not impose your desires on them, because okay, they are who they are. All right, they do not want to be you, and they need to feel worthy of their own unique identity. All right, okay, like if you have more than one child, you might realize that all of them have different unique personalities. Okay, and then they also need to know that they matter in their family. This is very important. Okay, so what you can do is you can how do you let them know that they matter in the family? You ask them for opinions on things around the house, okay, or you can ask them, like if you are going to have a, like Christmas is coming, you want a new coat of paint, okay, you can discuss with your child, okay, like okay, what should the color of the living room be and things like that. Okay, or you can get them, like to plan the recipe, not recipe, the menu for the dinner or things like that. Okay, next please. And then very, very important, all parents, you should hold a positive space, okay, for your children, right? A space of love, a space of support, all right? So what do you do? Okay, you must be encouraging. Okay, you do not judge them, because teens don't like to be judged. I think nobody likes to be judged, but especially teens at this age. Okay, even though your intention might be good, okay, they might see that you are actually like going against them. All right, you are not how to say, you're not approving of them doing things, okay, and do not try to fix them, and very importantly, give unconditional love. Okay, so what does holding a space mean? Okay, so if you hold a space for someone else, that means you are actually willing to walk alongside the person, okay, without judging, right, without making them feel inadequate, okay, without trying to fix them or impact the outcome. So when you hold a space for your child, you open your heart, right, you give unconditional support and let go of judgment and control. So if you can do that, your teen, all right, will actually feel it. They will know, okay? So they will know, and then if there are any problems or worries that they have, they know that they can come to you for help. Okay, next. Okay, before I talk about this, okay, this is my ex-student. He actually okay, he actually was very depressed, all right, just recently. Okay, and I could tell. Okay, so I asked him what's the matter. He said because he was into sports. All right, he really, really loves sports, but then he is not good academically. So the mom, all right, the mom is a teacher. Okay, of course, the mom wants him to to do well academically. So the mom actually forbid him to go for any sports games with his friends, things like that. And he got very, very upset. All right. So and because of this, right, the relationship between the mom and him actually became worse. Right. So one thing that you can do in order to connect with our child is, before you want to connect with him or her, you must understand yourself. So what do I mean by this? So as parents, we also need to respect our kids as individuals in their own right. Okay. So if you feel that, am I imposing anything on my child? Right. So just like I have another coaching student, the mom forced her to learn piano and she hated it. And she has been learning for the past 10 years. She's 14, so since four years old. So the mom kept forcing her, and she has been telling the mom, she's not interested, but then the parent just forced her. So because of that, right, her academic results in school actually dropped. All right. She will be like, thinking, oh, later I have to go for my piano lesson, which I hate. All right. So yeah, so if you have if you think that, or if you're not sure whether you're imposing anything on your child, then you need to see, what are some of your unmet needs, that you try to use your kids to fill. Okay, so what can you do? All right. So you ask yourself, how do I heal myself from the trauma caused by these unmet needs? Okay, maybe when you were younger, you really, really wanted to learn piano, or this mom, of my student, maybe she herself wanted to learn piano, but she had no chance. So now she thought, okay, I will give the chance to my daughter instead. Okay, so you go back, all right, and what you can do is, there's a list of things you can do. Okay, go back to your early childhood as far as you can remember. All right. And then you write down these unmet needs, till now. All right. Then you look through the list, and see which of these are really still important. All right. If you think that they're still important, right, then you think, how can you actually meet these needs now? All right. So if the needs are no longer important, then you just complete with it, and then you just let them go. And what you can do is you write now your new positive parenting plan. Right. How are you going to support your child as he or she enters Set 1? Okay. And then the next thing is, after understanding yourself, right, and your unmet needs, now is the time to understand your team. Okay. So how much do you understand your team? I have some parents coming to me saying that, when the kid was in primary school, right, they would still, be communicating with them. Then suddenly when they go to secondary school, they shut themselves down. Why? Okay. So that is when the understanding of your teenager, because maybe your understanding of your teenager is still at the primary school stage. Okay, your teen is growing up, so he or she might have changed. So what you can do is, find out who is their best friend, the worst friend, favorite teacher, things like that. Okay, favorite subject and worst subject in school. Okay, and then you ask them why. Okay, if they say, oh, Mrs. Tan is my favorite, you ask them why do you like Mrs. Tan? Okay, how is this person like, and stuff like that. Okay, next. And then, if they're not doing well in a subject, you ask them, why are they not doing well? Okay, is it because they cannot understand the concepts, or is it because right, the class is noisy, or things like that? And you ask them, how can you help them? Okay, do you think you ask them, do you actually need external help and stuff like that? And also find out what's their ambition, and support them in pursuing it. Right, just like what Angela said, do not impose what you want them to be. Okay, I put up this story of P2 boy. Okay, when I was a primary school teacher at Rulang Primary School, the first year teacher, I was very young then. Okay, this boy came up to me one day and asked me, primary 2 only, teacher, Miss Ang, he called me. Okay, do you think I actually wanted to be a fireman. Okay, by my mom said now, fireman is hard work. She wants me to be a doctor. So which one is better? Then his eyes were very big. I could still remember his face. Okay, and then I told him, I said, okay, do what will make you happy. Okay, do what will make you happy. Do what what you can do best to contribute to the world. So I do not know whether this boy has become a fireman. All right. And there's another Korean student when I was teaching at International Korean School like 2 years ago. This student of mine, she was very, very, very good in biology. And this one, she really wanted to be a doctor. Okay, she wanted to be a doctor. Okay, but then the mother said, "Aya, doctor also very hard work. You need to go to the hospital, you need to work shifts and things like that." And then the mom, the parents actually told her to become like a business person instead. Okay, so it's like what is very important is you really, really need to find out what is the interest of your child. Maybe at set one they might not have an idea yet, okay, but as they as they reach sec 3, sec 4, okay, when they are going to choose subject, okay, or even JC level, right, then you can ask them again, okay, because these might change, all right, the ambitions might change, right? But when they reach JC level, if they're doing IP and things like that, that would be a good time to check with them again. Okay. Okay, so what happens? Okay, this one is quite common. Okay, maybe one day you come home and then suddenly your child, okay, who was still very jovial the day before, came home, all right, and okay, suddenly stop talking to you. Okay, this is actually one method. We call the question burst method. Okay, to help you understand your child better. So what you can do is, if this happens, let's say next year when your child come home from school, okay, and this happened, you can ask yourself as many questions as possible, like within 5 minutes only, anything that comes to your mind. Okay, what could have caused the problem? For example, you can ask yourself, oh, did I say something wrong? Okay, or could it be maybe something happened in school? Okay, something happened with the friends, with the teachers. Ask yourself, okay, these questions. And then during dinner time, okay, it would be good if you can have dinner together. You can kind of like ask this question, or you can actually go, to the room, all right, when it's all quiet before bedtime, and you can say things like, okay, I noticed that that something is not right. Would you like to share? Okay, if they're not willing, then you just let them be first, right? When they have come down, right? If you have built a good relationship with your child, then sharing problems with you wouldn't be a problem. Okay, next. Okay, and another important thing is to let your teen understand you. All right. Okay, just last year, I was teaching this 13-year-old student, and okay, I was talking about something about their parents' job. Okay, and then somehow I mentioned about I think because he said the father came from the same school as me. Okay, and then I was saying, oh, maybe the father could have been my ex-classmate or something. So I said, oh, so what's your father's name? I might know him. Then he said, oh, I do not know my father's full name. I only know the surname because it's the same as mine. So I was like, huh? Are you sure? Okay. So it's very important to let your teen understand you. Okay. And then what you can do is, all right, do you actually tell your kids about your like and dislike? Do you actually share your childhood days with them? How about your dreams? Share with them your successes and failures. Okay. Yep. And then very important, do not compare between you and your child, because I know some parents do that, as my students told me. Okay, so you do not compare. Okay, don't say, oh, when daddy was young, I could do this, but how come you cannot? Don't do that. Okay, you just tell them your story and let them know more about you. Okay, when you were a teenager. So actually, I'm going to share with you a very simple bonding activity that could actually help you and your teenager understand each other. Okay, that holiday is coming, so this activity is very simple. You only need paper and pen. All right, so you can list down all the categories that you think you know about each other. For example, favorite food, okay, drinks, colors, okay, who are your best friends, where are your favorite places, and stuff like that. And then you give like a time, for example, within 3 minutes, okay, or 1 minute, write down all our favorite food. So the parents will have to write the kids' favorite food, and the kids will have to write their parents' favorite food. Okay. So when the time is up, just check with each other. Right. So it could be a good laugh as well. All right. So this activity, you can do so anywhere. Right. So it's actually good for bonding. Okay. To find out about each other. Okay. Next. Okay, so another very important thing is show an interest in their interest. Okay, Now, as your child enters secondary school, right, they will have new interests. Okay, they might join a new CCA. Okay, so what you can do is ask them about their interest. Okay, I have one mother who told me, I have a girl, all right, my student. She was really into K-pop dancing. All right, she loved K-pop dancing. So, but then the mom told me, okay, she doesn't like K-pop, okay, and she has no interest in any K-pop stuff, okay. So what I told the mom was, okay, even though you are not interested, right, you must still like take an interest, ask them about who is their favorite K-pop star and things like that. So when your teen, know that you are actually okay, taking an interest in their interest, they will share with you more things, okay, not only about the interest but other things as well, okay, and you can spend time doing the interest with them. All right, okay, next. And also listen attentively, very important. Okay, I know, a lot of parents are now very busy. Okay, not only parents, everybody is kind of busy. Okay, and especially when your child enters Sec 1, he or she will also be very busy. Okay, with so many subjects to study. Okay, so what I always tell parents is spend, okay, the evening having a meal together, that dinner, right, so that you can actually ask them about their day. Okay, and when you're asking them, all right, listen attentively, look into their eyes. Okay, when they are talking to you, right, have eye contact and let them know that you're always there to listen and give support. Okay, so there is this, this very interesting Chinese character called Ting. This one is a traditional character, okay, which has a lot of meaning, right? The the new character has lost its meaning, I think. Okay, so the traditional Chinese character Ting, if you can see, this one is 耳朵, okay, ears, Wang, okay, 十, Mu, Yi, Xing. So what you can do is always remember this Chinese character Ting. You use your ears to listen. You treat the person talking to you as a king. That means you listen attentively, okay, and you listen completely. You have maintained eye contact, and okay, you listen with your heart. Okay, so I think this Ting, okay, carries a very, very good lesson for us, right? To be a good listener. So be a positive parent, all right, which is be affirmative, respectful, encouraging, nurturing, and trusting of your child. And last but not least, okay, next, please. You must believe in them, all right? Believe in them, okay? Really believe in them and know that, all right, when they have your support, when, you build a good parent-child relationship with them, they will be able to soar, okay, and reach their fullest potential. Okay, so with this, I thank you and I'll pass this back to Lenny. Lenny.
Wow, thank you so much, Edna and Angela, for your very valuable sharing. I think even as a parent myself, I was like enjoying the session, even though this is the second time I've actually heard it, and I'm still learning new things from them. So I hope that all of you have learned. So if you have any comments, you can just put the chat is all yours. Just type in all your comments now, right, to encourage our speakers. Okay. So next up, okay, just if you'd like to connect with Impact Circle and your future forward, these are our social media contacts and contacts. But not to worry, we will send these to you as well through email, together with the recording of this webinar. So if you feel that you want to rewatch it, you can also do so, right? Just want to take this time to do a little bit of a plug, for our upcoming holiday programs. Just take a bit more of your time. So for Impact Circle, we have a variety of Head Start programs for the next year, especially for those who are just entering Sec 1, and as well as other levels. So do let us know if you're keen. I think it's a good way to get your new secondary school kids just one leg up, right? So that when they get into the lessons for the 8 subjects, they won't be so terrified. So they will know a bit better what to expect. So do let us know, and we will give a extra $50 discount for these programs. Yeah. Okay, now I'll pass time over to Edna to share her promotions.
Okay, so for my holiday program, I have actually come up with this workshop. Okay, it's a 4-day online workshop to help your P6 kid transit into Sec 1 smoothly. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so so in this 4-day online program, your child, okay, will get to learn all these, all right, the needs that they actually need, all right, to be successful, to be happy in secondary school, all right. So I will, like some students, they might be an introvert, so maybe they do not know how to make new friends in an environment. So I'll be touching on that, how to set smart goals, okay, when school reopens, all right, and then how to develop a growth mindset, right. How to focus, have self-control. I also teach them stress management strategies as well as time management strategies, okay, which is actually very important because they're going to have 8 or 7 to 10 subjects to take, plus the CCAs to attend. Okay, and then because I was I was a geography teacher, so I will also be teaching them, study skills, especially to cope with humanities such as history and geography. Okay. So, okay, as this quote says, a road well begun is the battle half won. The important thing is to make a beginning and get underway. So these, you can take a screenshot of these, okay, or yeah, if you need any other information, you can actually contact me directly. Okay, and okay, I do have a early bird promotion. All right, so I'll go back. So if you sign up by 15 November, okay, the price is 199, all right. Plus, I'm going to give the participants, all right, of this workshop, okay, a free introduction to geography lesson. It's 1.5 hours lesson whereby I will introduce them to the world of geography. Okay, yeah. And then, okay, so another program that I have is actually for Sec 1, the current Sec 1 to O-level students, whereby, okay, I will cover developing a growth mindset, okay, also time management and stress management strategies, and also setting smart goals, okay, for 2022. Okay, so another good news coming up. Okay, I have a very, very special thank you gift, okay, exclusively for you only, for the participants of tonight's webinar. I'm going to give you another additional $20 off for both workshops when, okay, you sign up by 5th of November, right, at 11:59 hour. Okay, so okay, you can sign up here, or if you want me to send you the link, okay, you can WhatsApp me, I can send you the link directly. All right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a lot of good stuff. And I was telling Edna when we were rehearsing for this webinar that I'm going to sign my daughter up for her workshop because I think it's going to be a great time. Okay, so we now move into a time of Q&A. But could I get your cooperation by while we are doing the Q&A, can you use your QR code scanner and scan this and give us some feedback regarding the webinar tonight, so that we can actually take your suggestions, and we will know how to improve for future webinars. So this is actually very important for us, and we really appreciate your honest feedback. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we break into a time of Q&A. So the three of us will be the Q&A panel. So of course you know Edna, you know Angela, and as well as me. My name is Lenny, and yeah. So with us, I think we have combined about 70 years of experience in MOE or something like that. Okay. So feel free. I will now
I
unmute. Yeah.
maybe we address some of the questions asked when the participants signed up for this webinar. Okay. So there's one question about whether students should be choosing two CCAs in secondary school. I think time management is very important. So with two CCAs, it may be very tough for your child to manage the time as well as giving the commitment to both CCAs. So we usually in secondary school they usually take on about one CCA, all right, and then usually schools will let them try out. Some schools will let them try out in the first month or so, in the first term even, before they finalize the choice of CCA. And then after that, we do not encourage students to drop or change CCA after Sec 1 or 2, because it takes time to build skills in a particular CCA. So if they were to drop or change CCA, at the end of Sec 2, then they have to start all over again, and you're going to lose CCA points and so forth. All right, there's a question that comes in about any link of CCA to JC. Okay, good question. I was just about to answer that, because someone else also asked about that as well. So CCA is a way to build skills, all right, related to CCA, to build social emotional skills, all right, as well as interpersonal skills. All right, so it is very important to see CCA as an integral part of secondary school life, and even in poly or JC thereafter. It is important to see not just as a means to get into a post-secondary institution, but also as a means to develop your child as a person. All right, so if you were to ask me, under the current system, if you get an A1 for CCA, right, you get 2 points deducted from the O-level score. However, from 2027 onwards, I'm not too sure how the post-secondary admission exercise will take into consideration of CCA. So currently, with your children going to Sec 1 next year, all right, it will still be the old system where with CCA at A1 standard, they will get 2 points deduction for entry into JC. All right. Okay, next question that I will answer is about open houses. There seems to be quite a few questions on open houses, like, oh, how do I choose which open house to go to and so forth. Anyway, all of them are online these days, right? I hope by now you and your child would have shortlisted a range of schools, all right, that your child is interested to go to next year. And that's based on the discussions on his or her needs, interests, as well as the prelim prelim results. All right, so based on this range of shortlisted school, go and attend the ECCAs that your child is interested in. All right, how to ask questions. Okay, so I always when I was in charge of open house back when I was in Maris Stella, I always train my counselors or the student leaders, the CCA leaders, right, to talk about their experience, because I always feel that students, they are the direct beneficiary of the programs that schools put in place and so forth, and they are the ones going through the school experience in terms of CCA, school programs and so forth. So get your child to ask any student leader, CCA leader who may be around during the ECCA questions about his or her experiences in that school. Okay, now how much allowance? That's a very interesting question. I think this is a very personal question, and let's talk about the practical considerations. Okay, so when you decide on how much allowance you want to decide to give to your child, really depends on whether there are lessons and CCAs after school. All right, so that's something that you have to think about. Okay, I have another question on CCA again. Any CCA? I'm not quite sure what James is trying to ask. Are you trying to ask if there's any CCA that will help you to get 2 marks deducted? It doesn't work that way, because different CCAs will have different requirements. Like, for example, uniform groups will require certain level of activities, leadership opportunities, and so forth in order to get certain level of CCA marks. Likewise, for clubs and societies and sports, they will have their own criteria. So I think it's best to check with the schools that you're interested in, what are some of the criteria to get more CCA points throughout 4 to 5 years. All right. Okay. Then there are questions on anxiety. Let me ask about IP schools. Okay, should your child choose a top IP school if you just made it to the cutoff point, or another IP school with perhaps a lower cutoff point? I think Lenny will be able to best answer this.
Okay, yeah, this is about these IP schools and what type of schools to choose. I think it's important for you to think about your child. Will your child be better able to function as a big fish in a small pond, or a small fish in a big pond? I think that's a very important question, because some people are better one way and some people are better the other way. So I mean, I myself, I was quite blessed. I was in RI, then I went to RJ, and I found that as an experience as a student, um, when I was in RI, I was so used to not being at the top. So not being at the top didn't bother me. I know that no matter how hard I try, I can never top the class, or I can never go up to the school to receive a prize, because there will always be someone smarter than me, right? So when I went to RJ, I was so used to that it just seemed very natural progression. And I didn't really aspire to go out to stage and take a prize, even though I did quite well in my studies. But I noticed that those people who came in from more heartland schools, they're so used to topping the school all the time. But once they come in and then they struggle so hard, and it really affected their morale. Okay, so I'm not saying that one way or the other way is good or bad, but I think you need to think about this, whether big fish or small fish, right? And honestly, with regards to IP, because I was vice principal at Diamond High. I mean, all our students come in with like 260, 265, all coming with very good PSLE scores, generally speaking. And even with that, there are some students with 265, and they don't even, once they come in, they start failing, And the reason which I feel is because the method in which they got their good grades is through a lot of drill and practice. And that will work at a primary school level with 4 subjects, because there's fewer subjects, you can really go and do your drill and practice. But at a higher level, and you want to do it for 8 subjects, you just find that you're not able to use that method anymore to achieve the results that you achieved before. So some of these students, they struggle, and then they do poorly, and when they drop out, they only have PSLE cert to and they have to actually move on to private education, because even getting a place in a poly, is very hard. Okay, so I just want to caution parents here that best is if you really understand your child. For IP and even IB, I think you need students that are really quite highly motivated, that you don't always need to be chasing them to complete the homework, and papa, mama must check your work whether it's done. I think you'll be very worn out, if you have to do this every day of the next 4 to 6 years. So do keep that in mind, lah. I hope that answers your question. Again, I'm not discouraging or encouraging one way or the other, but I'm just trying to bring out something to your attention. Yeah. Okay, Angela, what's the next question?
The next question is on scoring for DSA, selection for DSA. So there's a question on if your child is selected for DSA, does he or she need to see the scoring point to enter? I guess what you're asking is, does your child still need to apply for the Sec 1 posting system, is it? All right, so DSA results will be out together with the PSLE results in the week of 22nd of November onwards. So if DSA application is successful for your child does not need to participate in the Sec 1 posting process. However, he or she may still need to participate if he or she is eligible for more than one course or wants to attend a 3rd language program. So I'm going to put in the chat group, all right, the MOE official website on DSA for more information, especially the timelines and so forth. I think those are more important for all of you. All right, I think there are other questions on anxiety. All right, so there's one question on how can you as a parent help a child to cope with transition when she has been diagnosed with some form of anxiety and so forth. All right, so Edna, do you have anything to say that?
Yeah, okay. So for anxiety, right, if a child feels, very anxious, what the parent can do is, even before the child enters into the new school, let the child be familiar with the new environment. I know that, okay, right now, okay, it's not really possible to enter the school yet, but, during the school, whereby you go to the school for the posting registration, you will be bringing your child, right? Okay, during that day, you can actually bring your child around, okay, let your child be familiar with the environment. And then what you can do is you can also let the form teacher know about your child's condition, so that during the school day, the teacher, okay, can actually also support your child. Okay, and another thing that you can do is actually, talk about it with your child and try to anticipate what kinds of things that could actually cause her anxiety. And the two of you can actually sit down and discuss, okay, if she feels anxious, okay, for a particular reason, what are the things that she can do to cope with it? Okay, maybe she might be anxious about not making new friends. Okay, you can actually, say, okay, get her to think back, okay, during the primary school days, how did she make new friends? Okay, she can actually use that as well. Or okay, let's say okay, if she's the kind that's really, really super anxious, you can actually, use, teach her like breathing, right, deep breathing strategies to help her calm down. Yeah. So this might help. Okay, thank you.
Mm. Okay, and I have a very interesting question. In case anyone is interested, do secondary school provide bus service or transport? Okay, no, secondary schools don't provide bus service and transport, and that's why I talk about the practical considerations of how you want to send how your child will get to school and back home and so forth. All right. Is prelim result a good gauge of actual PSRE results? Well, generally they are a good gauge unless during the actual PSRE paper itself, your child went, overly, became overly anxious, and that may affect his or her performance at the PSRE paper. But I think right now is not the time to worry about that. Right now really is to figure out what is the range of secondary schools that will best match your child's needs. All right, so I'm going to put in the chat group also about the information on posting to secondary school. It's actually a MOE microsite where I'm sure all of you are very clear about the processes and all, but I thought I'll just give it to all of you so that in your free time again you can take a look at it, especially the timelines and so forth. All right. Other than that, I think we have answered the rest of the questions submitted to us during our webinar already.